A lot of the work we have done has been around content creation and copy. Now we have a competitor that isn't as good as us, honestly, but they are insanely quick and do come up with new ideas from time to time. And that, in marketing, is worth a lot. Welcome to the MediaBooks Podcast, the only place on the internet where creative accounting isn't a bad thing. Owning a virtual firm today means having a professional and modern online presence, and in this podcast, we talk about how to do just that. My name is Kristen Corey, and I'm the owner of MediaBooks, a media agency that provides creativity exclusively to accounting firms. And if you're an accounting firm owner, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the MediaBooks Podcast. In this podcast episode, we are going to be talking about how to get the most out of AI in your marketing. Now, we're primarily going to be talking about ChatGPT. I realize AI covers so much different tech out there, but really with the rise of ChatGPT and all these other plugins and apps, I want to talk about what it can do for your marketing, how it could hurt your marketing, the best sort of practices that we've come across. But first, I want to get into a news headline I know you want to hear about. Okay, so the whole theme of this podcast episode is really AI. It's been all over the news. It is not going away. And we've talked about it a few times on the podcast, but I wanted to kind of dedicate a whole episode to it in the news headlines and then also in the content. And the headline that I really want to talk about is what Google has sort of come out and said how they are essentially changing the way that we search, and they are incorporating AI into it. And traditionally, what happens when you type it, I'm explaining Google like you haven't used Google. But as you know, when you go to Google, you search for something, the first section is usually ads. Sometimes, depending on what you search, the second section will be YouTube videos. Part of the reason for that is Google owns YouTube, so they always, want to look for opportunities to direct you over to YouTube. And then below that is the search results. Now, the way this is changing with AI is they are doing first like a block, like a block summary to sort of answer your question. So let's say you search for, what is the best website builder for an accounting firm? They may have like a few options. They may say some of the best website builders, some of the most frequently used website builders for accounting firms include da-da-da-da-da. And then below this sort of block at the top of your screen, you're going to see your ad section, possibly a YouTube section, and then below that, you are going to see search results. Now, there are people that are concerned that these search results, that your website showing up in these search results is going to be pushed all the way to the bottom. And so it kind of begs the question, does SEO even matter? And here's the thing. I don't think you should be worried. Marketers have been talking about this, as have accountants in your different groups and Facebook groups. And Neil Patel, who is a marketing guru, he brings up a couple points that I think really kind of illustrate why we don't need to be super worried and jumping the gun. But the first reason is by doing this, Google is creating a better search experience. They are uncovering even more specific scenarios where you can use Google. Your website views may dip a little bit, but they may also increase drastically by people who are looking for specific searches. So people who do land on your page may be more likely to be ready for your services. Maybe it's going to be like a more advanced search than accounting firms in my area. Maybe they're looking for accounting firms who can help my Etsy shop, increase revenue or something. And you wrote a blog article about that, or, you really incorporated that into your website. You may show up more higher in the search results because Google is going to be able to accommodate a more complex search inquiry. Now, of course, this is going to be kind of tried and tested. We're not really sure exactly how Google is tracking AI that you put on your website versus the AI that it pulls search results from. That's going to go into new SEO strategies, but overall, it may create a better search experience. And the reason that they're saying that, you may show up more or it may increase your website views is because if you consider the way people use Google versus Yelp versus Facebook versus all the sort of platforms where they can search for services, Google is trying to be, they're already, the most popular option, but they want to expand the opportunities for you to use Google in your search results. And so more opportunities for people to use Google means more chances for them to land on your website, essentially. The second reason is revenue. Now, we're accountants, of course, chase the money. But here's the thing. Google's revenue, about 60% of it comes from ads. That's over $160 billion. They are not going to just shut down SEO and website and all that revenue that they pull from ads. And also this ad revenue, it's not just search ads. When you set up a Google ad, you can create a search ad, you can create a picture or a video ad. So a picture ad is like when you go to someone's website and you see like a picture in the sidebar, that's a picture ad. Google controls that. Google has that option. There's other places where you can build ads, but that's one of the places that you can pull or pay Google for ads. And so if SEO were to completely tank, your website views were to go down, so does Google's revenue, because people are no longer landing on your website. They are no longer seeing the ads. They are no longer clicking on the ads. Google knows this. They are smart enough to know that. And so if SEO is going to die, they have to be able to replace it with some pretty big alternative to that 60% revenue. And really, we're just not seeing where they would be pulling that from. So Google does see value in people landing on your website. Google recognizes SEO is a good thing, simply because of that ad revenue. Now, this, of course, isn't to say it's never going to change, but I definitely wouldn't start saying, SEO is irrelevant just yet. Okay, so let's get into AI and your marketing. Now, obviously, AI is sort of changing the entire work landscape. It doesn't matter whether you're in marketing or accounting, engineers, but everyone in between seems to somehow be affected by AI. And personally, I refuse to become Blockbuster. A lot of the work we have done has been around content creation and copy. Now we have a competitor that isn't as good as us, honestly, but they are insanely quick and do come up with new ideas from time to time. And that in marketing is worth a lot. So instead of rejecting ChatGPT and Jasper and all these other ones, we are really trying to work to embrace it. And while I do have a lot of concerns from a marketing perspective, which I'm going to talk about in a second, I just want to share some tips on how to use AI to write your own content and sort of keep these concerns in mind. Behind the curtain, here's what's going on with kind of our perspective in AI. So really my first concern with AI is that it could hurt your SEO. We have already done a couple podcast episodes about that. If you check out episode 158 and 159, but really just kind of want to extend on those conversations. Google is still holding that AI generated content will be closely monitored, and that you could potentially be penalized for creating a bunch of AI content and not sort of tailoring it. They're not saying that you cannot use AI content, but they're saying that the standards for quality are going to be higher. So, for example, if you write a blog post, typically Google is going to look at things like how long people are reading the post. Do people visit other links on your website? How is the blog post structured? This is how normal SEO works. Now, Google has not said how they are going to determine whether something is AI generated, but we can assume you will not be able to just write a bunch of prompts into AI, create posts on your website, post them. Yeah, I mean, you're not the first person to think of that. And it's the exact kind of content that Google does not want in their top search results. They're already creating their own SEI summary answer. They want you to do something different. So first thing to really keep in mind is that it could hurt your SEO using just AI generated content to write blog posts. The second, or really content in general, create a whole website. The second point here is that using AI content sort of willy-nilly, for lack of a better phrase, really it could hurt your brand. This is very similar to templates. Template content can be great, but only if you tailor it. We've used templates in the past. We sell them. We sell website templates, but they are only useful if you tailor them to your own personal branding, your own personal marketing strategy. AI is the exact same thing. If you do not tailor your AI content, you will be hurting your brand. You're going to be hurting your brand in the voice and the imagery if it doesn't match your brand. If QuickBooks started posting girl boss type posts or Gusto started getting all serious with stock photography, you would notice that there's a difference and you'd be like, what the heck is going on here? You need to do the same thing whenever you're creating AI content. You need to make sure that it's consistent with the other content that you're putting out there in your voice and your email campaigns. And if you're just constantly creating new AI content, and not really sort of giving them the boundaries of this is what I need it to sound like, or rereading it to make sure it sounds as you want, your brand is going to suffer in that regard. Also, people realize when it comes to templated content, people realize that they may have seen your content somewhere else, and they may assume that you're stealing or copying the content. This is something else to consider when we're writing this AI content, or when you're generating AI content. We don't want people to think it's a robot. People are kind of sick of robots, even though we're at the same time embracing them, but talking to a person is always going to be better than talking to a robot. And when it comes to tailoring your content, I think templates and this AI generated content, people look at them in a similar way. And so, quick story time. In one of my marketing groups, I came across a post where someone was upset that their client was posting content that they thought was clearly stolen. I mean, the images were the same, the captions were the same. They shared images of this, and I mean, it was the exact same post, like, clearly. Turns out the client was posting content from someone that was selling templates, not that they were stealing the content. So they just weren't tailoring it. They were just taking it from whatever seller this was, posting the same images, the same copy, and it was all on the same, these two same accounts. If your audience sees that your content is posted in multiple places, you could possibly be breaking your trust with them that you're trying to build and you're working so hard to build. You start back at zero. If not, you could potentially go the complete opposite way. They don't always realize when it's a template. They may think that you're stealing the content. This is why it's so important to tailor your content to your brand. And the same thing is going to be said for AI. If they see that you're just sort of copying and pasting from, Chat GPT, it sort of makes them wonder who's the person on the other end. It breaks that trust. So keeping all these things in mind, there are some marketing smart ways to use AI and keep these points in mind. Now, before we get into those, disclaimer, I do not believe AI has been around long enough for anyone to really be calling themselves an expert. A lot of this is speculative or hacks that we found or tips or tricks, and everyone's kind of sort of sharing them online. Aside from the people that created, ChatGPT or Jasper, or the people that created their specific software, I think it's too early for us to be saying, we're experts. So these are things that we're discovering and learning along the way, and this is us sort of passing it along to you. So first question is, how are we using AI at MediaBooks? Every once in a while, there's a new marketing trend or tool or strategy that we want to try. And so what I'll do is I'll, look through our clients and I'll find one that I think is a good fit. And then in our meeting, I'll say, hey, I think this would be really good for your marketing strategy. Full disclosure, we've never done this before, but we want to try it out. We want to get some experience. Would you be open to being a guinea pig? And we want to get your feedback. We want to know how it goes. Usually 10 out of 10 times clients are excited for it. So we did this with AI, specifically ChatGPT, and we did it for writing blog and social media content. And again, we want to play around with it. And we didn't want to just test our perception of how the content was written. We also wanted to know from your guys' perspective as the accountants, as the client, do you feel like this was in your tone? Do you like this content? Do you feel like it maintained the level of quality that you expected from us? All these sort of questions, wanting to sort of have some good self-awareness. So here are some tips kind of after, we've only done this for a month, but after kind of using AI for our clients for the last month. Tip number one is to get organized. So originally when I was using ChatGPT, I would just like hit the, plus icon and say, write a blog post about this. And then it would write a blog post. I'd be like, oh, this is awful. And so what I actually then started doing was I created a channel for each client and then each client's particular marketing asset. So if the client's name was ABC Bookkeeping, I would write ABC Bookkeeping Instagram post or ABC Bookkeeping email newsletter. And so I knew the client and then sort of the format that I wanted things to keep in. And, having these conversations kind of ongoing and moving. And so that's something that I didn't realize was important when using this tool at first. And what that does really when you are doing that is that it allows the app time to get to know you. So you have that first conversation. When you come back to it a second time, it's going to be like, oh, okay, like we're in the same conversation. We're talking about the same client. We're talking about the same platform. There's sort of a history there, which leads to the second point of write better prompts. If you spent any time in ChatGPT, you are probably realizing how important the prompts are and how important it is to write them appropriately. Really, when I started using ChatGPT, I realized like I was writing this as if I was talking to Google. I was thinking about keywords and condensing it. I wasn't thinking I'm having an actual conversation with a robot, or I was thinking I needed to use specific words. Like, here's a hack. If you're ever like trying to talk to customer support and you don't want to talk to the robot, I just type in representative and I just type it over and over until they connect me with someone because I don't want to talk to a robot. And so, where was I? Yes, write better prompts. Here's the thing. When you're talking with this is going to be different than Google. This is going to be different than, the little robot that you talk to when you're on some business's website. You can actually have a more intelligent conversation with them. And so this is one tip we found in, the millions of tips out there, that when you start your channel, let's say ABC Bookkeeping email newsletter, what you're going to do is this is going to be the first prompt that you type in. So if you're going to write this down on a notepad or a computer, or you can come back to this time in the podcast, but you're going to write down this. I need you to write some LinkedIn posts for my accounting firm. First, I want to make sure you completely understand my business and my audience. Please ask me all the questions necessary about my firm, audience, and clients to create the best content possible. Click enter. Then what's going to happen is ChatGPT is going to put out 10 questions about the conversation. So they ask things like, what's the name of your accounting firm? What are the primary services you offer? Do you specialize in serving a particular industry? Who's your target audience? Which geographical regions or countries do you serve? Have you identified any pain points or challenges? Are there any specific keywords or phrases? A lot of these questions are questions that we have gone through with our clients in our branding sessions, trying to figure out, and like, this is very detailed. Like, this clearly shows that there is, I don't mean to sound like robots are attacking, but it clearly makes it seem like there is a brain on the other end who I'm having a conversation with. This is not just your normal Google search. And so putting that into ChatGPT, what I did, I get those 10 questions and then I respond to them. I'll do, bullet point 1, my accounting firm's name is ABC Bookkeeping. Bullet point B, or number 2, what is the primary services you offer? I offer bookkeeping services, and I go through every single question, and then it says, okay, thank you for that information. Now I'm now ready to start writing your prompts, and then you put in, I need, one LinkedIn post about the new tax rate or whatever, and then it'll generate posts, and the quality is so much better as opposed to just sort of going in dry. You still need to review and edit the content, but really the quality is so much better when you kind of have this baseline that you can then build the relationship with over time. And then you save that conversation for when you need another post or when you need another email newsletter. Second point is editing and fact checking. This has always been an important part of AI. Usually if you see anyone criticizing AI, this is one of the number one things they bring up. They recognize that AI can have biases. They don't know where the data is being pulled from. It is likely not the most up-to-date information. So for example, if you're writing a post about tax rates, it's very likely that tax rates, any tax rate really, could have changed since the source of the information was written. So something you want to keep in mind whenever you're, pulling information. We don't want to just be pulling and posting. And even if you are writing like a high level topic, let's say like how to read a balance sheet, a lot of AI software has repetitive sentences that you're going to want to keep an eye out for. For example, I asked ChatGPT to write me some LinkedIn prompts. Every single one of these prompts had "do not hesitate to reach out" at the end. And like over a batch of posts, 1 to 2 times is fine, but doing it on every single post, it came off repetitive. And like, I don't want this to be like the signature of every single post I create. So it has a few like crutches that it'll sometimes lean on. And it does seem to be different every time I generate something, the crutch or the phrase that it keeps repeating. And so it's always good to kind of keep that in mind. And if you're noticing, hey, that phrase sounds familiar, it's probably been used a couple times. Another tip that we have uncovered with AI is that optimizing this content is a must. I think I've talked about this before, but really I want to emphasize it and then also talk about some of the ways that we are optimizing our clients, our guinea pigs content. First, tailoring the content to your audience. Answer those questions that I listed, or enter in that prompt and then answer those questions that ChatGPT gives you. It will help make sure the content is written towards that audience, but you still want to make sure that it is written at the appropriate reading level. You want to make sure that you reference your audience as frequently as possible. You incorporate examples that really make your audience the focal point. So, here is an example of how plumbers can use job costing. Yeah, that's the title, but also have an example in the content itself. Sometimes they will include an example, sometimes they won't. Sometimes you need to actually pull from your own brain and real life examples to help illustrate it even better. Another way that you definitely want to optimize your content is make sure you're using the appropriate formats. So if you're using Squarespace, WordPress, Wix, any website builder, you're going to notice whenever you highlight over the text, you have the option to select H1, header 2, paragraph, formatting fonts. Now, this isn't just to visually help you to see sort of the flow of content. This isn't just for the readers. There is actually data and code that goes into the back end that Google is reading and realizing, okay, this information is formatted in a way that they want it to be easier for people to read. It's not just blocks and blocks of text. So by using the specific H1, H2, paragraph, etc. formats, you are signaling this information is organized and people are going to find it more useful. That helps your SEO. That is a great way, an easy way to really optimize. Be sure you are only using header 1 once and then use H2, header 2 in your subsequent writing, paragraphs, etc. Making your content scannable. This is something that I'm always preaching. Scannable content does so much better than just paragraphs and paragraphs of content. People are most likely not reading it word for word, and you want them to read. You want them to read your messaging. One of the best ways to do it is to make it scannable, make it shorter. So many times we are telling our life story. People don't want it. They want to know how you can help them. They want it short and quick and to the point. Interlinking within your website. So what that means is if you have a blog post or you have a website where you're talking about you have services and your services explain, sometimes S-Corp bookkeeping is a little bit more challenging. You can have a link to a blog post explaining this in more depth and make the link go to your own website. And what it does is it signals to Google, hey, people are jumping around my website. They find the information I'm putting out there helpful and useful. They're sticking around. They're visiting more pages. Google says, okay, this is a quality website. This is quality content. I'm going to give it a little bit of an SEO boost. So incorporating links where you can. Another way to do this is to have you may also like section. One company that does this so well, and every time I read a blog post, I'm reading 10, is HubSpot. I will read one blog post, and then every time in their blog post, they're like, you may also like, I open another tab, and by the end of the article, I have 15 tabs open, and because of how they have it laid out, every next article I read, I open another blog article, and so there's never, it's just this funnel that I'm swirling down, and I have 30 tabs, and I never like 30 tabs open of blog articles, and I never read all of them, but they do have really good quality content. And eventually I just have to cut the cord. Otherwise I'm just going to read HubSpot articles all day. But interlinking within your website, HubSpot does it really well. It's a great way to incorporate or have that in your marketing strategy. Great way to optimize your blog articles. You can do other things like adding GIFs, videos, graphs, whichever is most appropriate for your brand, really sort of providing visual elements to those that learn better just with a visual. You can add sources, so adding things like IRS or government website links. This helps boost credibility. This also, people will just find that helpful because you're constantly providing sources and resources for people to get the most value out of your articles. And then also adding affiliate links. This is one of my favorite ways to get you a little bit of additional income with your marketing, a little additional return on your investment. We're so often talking about apps and technology. Most of them have some sort of affiliate program. Just get a whole bunch of tech that you like. Get a whole bunch of your affiliate links, incorporate them into your blog posts, and then just make sure you have that disclaimer at the bottom that says you may be receiving income from some of these links that people click on. So really, I want to kind of wrap this up with my take on AI at this point, current day. Right now, we are spending about the same amount of time on blog content before and after AI, or before and after we use ChatGPT. And part of this may be because we are, working on a learning curve. We're definitely not using it like the normal accounting firm. We're using it more like a marketing firm, doing a lot of try to research and optimize. But we are compensating for potentially generic content with trying to optimize as much as we can. So we aren't just sort of satisfied with like, okay, yep, there's a blog post. We're saying, okay, we've saved all this time writing the blog post. Now, how do we make it better? Having said that, the quality of our articles has gone way up. We are optimizing in ways where we're hoping to see a higher return on our investment with the content that we put out there. It's given us a lot more time and flexibility to do things that before would have been a more premium package or for a client that had, a much larger budget. We have the time and the flexibility to do that now. So we've only really been doing this for about a month with our guinea pig client. So it's too early to say whether it's worked, but really, analyzing the data, we're going to be optimistic and we are going to kind of see and adjust how we can. Because as I said at the beginning of this podcast episode, I refuse to be Blockbuster. Really, this is kind of going to be the future of so much of our jobs and so much of our work. We need to embrace it. So I just want to end again with some encouragement. We're looking at AI as a tool, an imperfect one, but one that can help us do our job better. If you have concerns that this is coming for your job, it may not come for your job, but it is going to come probably for some tasks that you do. And so far, we are finding ways to stay ahead of it and actually be even better at our jobs. And just want to encourage you to do the same. Everyone likes to talk about passive income, but what about passive marketing? Specifically, lead magnets. Lead magnets are an excellent way to grow your email list. Add one to your website and watch your email list grow over time. It is set it and forget it marketing. Visit our lead magnets library where you can purchase lead magnets for everything from reading a balance sheet and income statement to sales tax 101. Add your brand colors, hit publish, watch your email list grow. Visit MediaBooksAgency.com and under our resources tab, you will find our lead magnets library where you can get started today. MediaBooks, the only place on the internet where creative accounting isn't a bad thing.